Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Malek and psychic demonologist Jennifer Celsi-Malek as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello there. This is Kat Hobson with WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Besides doing my shows, I'm also the owner of this network. And, gee, I thought I was tough. But this show is going to be an episode of Paraversal Universe Radio. As most of you know, Kevin Malek passed away. Jennifer is healing. I can only imagine how strong she's having to be, and I just want her to know that I love you. And now, back tough as nails, right? Tonight's show is going to be a celebration of Kevin. And his friends came to me wanting to do this, and I absolutely love it. We're also going to be sharing about the GoFundMe to help with some of the expenses that occur after your life and for the hospital bills and stuff like that. And that will be, it actually is on the WBHM-DB page. It's on my page. I believe it's on Paranormal Experienced page. And tonight we have several people that are going to be coming and going. And we have Scott Martis, Max Hawthorne, and Larry DeMisa with us right now. People are trying to get home from work, and they're going to just be joining us as they can. Somebody has a big hot date tonight, and I got to tell you, he better not miss this one, right, Max?
Yeah.
So
I wasn't cautious the last one.
I feel your pain, Max.
Thank you. I don't think you want to really feel it, though, if something goes bad. See, they have no idea what you're talking about, though, so,
He has a father-daughter dance, and he had an injury and couldn't attend it last year, so he is under strict orders not to miss this one. So,
no break dancing.
No.
As it were.
Yeah, you've got an even nice custom cut suit to how can I say this? Accommodate my increased tonnage since it's been so long since I was in the gym,
I feel
since
you.
the old suit. Yeah, it was like trying to put a banana peel on a watermelon. That wasn't happening. So,
yeah.
But anyway.
So, we also have Larry. Hi, Larry.
Hi.
And Kat. And in case you don't know, Lawrence DeMesa is who does all those fabulous graphics. His son did the design for Lake Monstrosity's page on Facebook. Oh, my goodness. You need to check it out. So, anyway, both gifted artists. And we have Scott Martis, who is, and I'm going to put this out here because I saw somebody else laying claim on this, and it is so not true. He is the expert on the Lake Champlain monster. And I was reading that, and I was like, no, that is not.
Well,
this
thank
is.
you.
So,
I concur.
just my opinion. Yeah. So,
I appreciate that.
It's true.
Yeah.
I speak truth. And, this is kind of awkward because we're all trying to wait on the other ones to speak and do this, that, or the other. But Larry and Max, I know that y'all need to go. Larry will be calling back in, but or I will be going to get him. But, Max, why don't you go ahead and start the discussion?
In terms of talking about Kevin, you mean?
Why not?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I've known Kevin, I think, since shortly after my first novel came out, which would have been around maybe mid-2014. I was on a show more than once. I know I did the Paraversal Universe show last year. I think it was May or something like that. We used to speak a lot. I used to put some stuff on his Lake Monstrosities, group, sharing things, sightings, promotional stuff, etc. I always found him to be, a great guy. You think a lot of people that are such a walking, like Scott, Kevin was like a walking search engine when it came to, all things paranormal, let's say, and stuff. And Scott's like that with with lake monsters, let's say. And, you'd think somebody like that would be kind of out there, but he was a very great, fun, down-to-earth guy. I really enjoyed being on the show. And, I when I heard that he was sick, it was it was in December, I remember, because he had reached out to me about doing some promotional stuff for the Lake Monstrosities group and all that. And, I was waiting on a post of his to, get it out there and get the word out and stuff. And then I didn't hear from him, so I dropped him a line, and then I heard from Jen. I found out he was in the hospital. And we'd spoken a couple of times, and he seemed to be doing great. And then next thing I knew, out of left field for me, I got the news that he had passed away. And, he's younger than me. So
Me
it
too.
just, it was jarring, and when you hear stuff like this, there's so many horrible people in this world, loathsome, despicable people. You see them in the news all the time, criminals, deviants, whatever. And, then you see something bad happen to somebody who's a really nice, kind person. It really makes you question the bigger scheme of things, at least me.
I think people feel like that as a whole.
Yeah. But, I still can't believe he's gone.
No.
I was listening the other day to that show we did when we were talking about, the giant squid and squid attacks on whales and megalodon and all this other stuff, and, it's like the person's still there, and then you think, then you realize they're not. It just, it really makes you sit down and think.
Well, I agree. Because, I sit there and, I was talking and messaging with Jennifer, and I'm just like, seriously, this is so wrong. But I'm not God, and or whoever you consider your creator to be. And I do think that energy isn't destroyed, energy moves on. And to quote Dumbledore, it is simply the next great adventure. but it's really hard when it's someone you love to perceive it that way. So, but, you know, his work was brilliant, and they had just finished a book. So, Jennifer, is that book still going into publication? By the way, she said that y'all are all wonderful for doing this. Thank them all for me and send them my love. Just saying.
Yeah, I told her to call me anytime she wanted to talk. You know, she needed emotional support, so she's got my number.
She called me. She called me Wednesday. I had a nice little chat with her too about, you know, Kevin's family and what happened with Kevin, and you know, the book and a couple other things, and you know, continuing the show. And the book is still on.
Yeah.
So
good.
I'm glad about that.
And she said as soon as possible.
I hate to not be in the know, but so what is the book about?
Basically, it
the book
is. Go ahead.
It's according to what Kevin wrote me and what Jennifer told me. It's basically all their experiences leading up to and being on the radio show. I mean, the first three iterations of the radio show. So it's like their paranormal research with the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, and them getting the radio show with Ross, and then, you know, the second iteration of the show with Mike, and then, you know, the latest iteration with Kat.
Cool. Well, I mean, somebody let me know when it's ready. I mean, it's not exactly my forte, but I have a pretty big audience. I'll certainly help, get the word out.
Well, not long ago, they went to this big conference in Chicago and spoke, too. I'm trying to remember what the name of the conference was, but...
Wasn't it just the
that was
Chicago
a big deal.
Paranormal Conference?
Yeah.
The Chicago
So that
Paracon.
happened, like November or something? Because I was talking to him about the Paranormal Roundtable episode, the last one we did together, and he was in Chicago when I messaged him, when was about to go present a talk on something. So that's not been long ago either. So I do know he was planning on doing a Lake Monstrosities book, and if Jennifer wants to go ahead with that, I think it's possible we could take the stuff that he's already written and edit that into it. And you could also take speech-to-text program and take stuff off the shows he's done and turn that into text too. So there's a way to do this if she wants to go ahead with the idea,
Yeah, she told me the book is still on, and she has a friend of hers who's writing I think a tribute page to Kevin that's going to be added on to the book, and then they're going to put it on Amazon.
Well, she also just shared that there was the Chicago Ghost Conference in October, and that he spoke on the alien demonic connection, which I found fascinating, and I had not really considered that until some time ago, that I heard him. So I just think that he was such a brilliant researcher, and he was able to come up with the connection.
He was a humble guy too. He didn't come on. I mean, for as much as he did.
I think we're having trouble with Scott.
Well, that's normal with Scott. He's known.
It is Scott. I'm kidding. Larry, did you want to go ahead and share some? I know that you're got to be close to home.
Yeah.
I will come and get you back when you get home.
Okay. First off, I'd just like to express my condolences to, the Malek family and the Celsi family. Jenny, Joni, Robert, Kevin's sisters. I feel really bad about what happened and how it happened. thanks to Scott Martis, because I'm a member of the Zombie Plesiosaur Society, and I met Kevin and Jenny through Scott, and
Hello?
I listened to Scott.
You're here, Scott.
The signal dropped out. Yeah.
Okay.
But
I'm here.
All right. I'm talking about you. I'm bad mouthing you. Yeah, Scott. It's Scott Martis's fault that I met. I told Scott this yesterday.
Yep.
I met Jenny and Kevin through Scott, and I got involved with the radio program through Scott because Scott did a show with Jay Cooney back in late 2014, and I started listening to the show then as a favor to Scott, and I listened to a couple more shows, and I noticed how enthusiastic Kevin was and Jenny was, and Jenny, they both were about, the subject matter that they were discussing on their show. And, truth be told, I wasn't a big fan of the artwork that they were using for their banners. And I had volunteered my services to Kevin and Jenny. And I believe like the first couple months of 2015, that's when I started doing the banners for the show and started doing the promotional art for the show. And ever since then, I've been a permanent fixture up until recently, unfortunately. But Kevin is, he's a great friend. Jenny, Joni, Scott, I did the cover artwork for their soon to be published book. Kevin helped me out, because I did a lot of my artwork, because it's a nonprofit program, and I'm doing it because I enjoy the program. I enjoy the subject matter, and they're just good people, especially Kevin and Jenny and the whole gang. And Kevin wanted to help me out because of my situation with my son, because my son, I don't know if anybody's very familiar with what's going on with my son, but my son suffers from severe epilepsy, and he just recently turned 10 years old, and we've been dealing with it for the last 10 years. And he did the watercolor painting about 3.5 years ago when he was actually doing better. And I showed it to Kevin, and Kevin fell in love with the painting, and he's used it for the Lake Monstrosities page ever since. And then he also did a fundraiser last year with the same image that my son painted, and they had it put on different types of T-shirts, and they sold them. And part of the proceeds were going to go
too. I did not.
Yeah,
get
part of the proceeds.
Those.
Yeah, part of the proceeds were coming to my family, and then the rest were going to go to, I think, some other charities or something. But yeah, and then I was planning on writing a book, and Kevin, I had asked Scott and I had asked Kevin if they would write a foreword for the book, and Kevin, I talked to Jenny about it the other day. Jenny said she's going to investigate further, but Kevin wanted to write a foreword. He told me he had the perfect foreword for what I had planned. Scott, I'm sure Scott would jump on it, in a second, anyways. But
yeah, no problem.
But it's just unfortunate that he left us so soon because they had so much to give. Him and Jenny both. And I asked Jenny the other day if she had planned on continuing with the show, and she said eventually she does plan on continuing on with the show, but she still needs time to heal, and I don't blame her.
Too fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
maybe we could all volunteer to help her co-host, on a rotating basis.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll be willing to do it.
I know that she would love that. And, that's what friends do. That's what friends do.
I love Kevin and Jenny, and I did a lot for them, and I still would do more for Jenny and, the radio program. But like I said, I still have my situation at home too.
Yeah. But we're going to have to take a little break. It's that time. And we'll be right back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back. You are listening to Paraversal Universe, and I am Kat Hobson, and I am standing in for Jennifer today. And this show is all about the beauty of the soul that was Kevin Malek. And I am so pleased to be able to welcome his friends, besides myself. We had Larry DeMesa, and he had to step away, and we'll be getting him back. We have Scott Martin, and we've Martis, and we have Max Hawthorne, and we are joined by Howie Odell. So thank you guys for being here. Mine too. So, and come to find out that it's appropriate that Kevin has a whole team ready to take over for him. A team would be needed, said Sue in chat. So, those are big shoes, because I'll tell you what, he planned those shows perfectly. And I think my style made him crazy, which is okay. Everybody does their own thing. But I'm conversation, and he is cut to the chase. And it's all good. Everybody does their own thing and just roll through like that. So I think that I think it's pretty cool. You did what program? Uh-huh.
Having a long discussion about paranormal cryptozoology, and I've always, that's one thing, we respectively disagreed about, is I've always been firmly in the biological animal camp, and been minded to the idea that maybe they aren't animals, they're some kind of paranormal entity. And the debates that me and him were having, the friendly debates me and him were having about that was the genesis of that discussion. And we got to talking about, well, who else can we bring into this? And I said, well, there's Danny B. Stewart and Steve Carrington. So we put that whole thing together. And the plan was, we ran out of time. The discussion was so deep. We were planning on doing a second part, and maybe at some point in the future that might happen, but unfortunately it'll be without him, so. Oh, yeah.
And he is, because every person that I've interviewed that was in these fields are special.
Yeah.
And, the fact that Kevin and Jennifer worked as a team and had their knowledge base, and also, while they worked together, they also took separate sides of, different topics.
Yeah.
So I just love their work. And it was always like you were talking to one when you talked to both of them.
Yeah. Well,
that's so cool.
They appeared on my podcast, too. I have a podcast called The Haunted Sea.
Uh-huh.
And we did a 2-hour show about Wisconsin lake monsters, where we talked about Pepe and Pressy from Lake Superior and, all of that stuff. So,
well, they are who turned me on to that. So when I started listening to their show, we were both on Paranormal King, and I moved over to WCJV. But it's nice having producers. So it was really fun because they were on Fridays. I've always been Wednesdays, so I could listen to them. And their work was always so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to be on their show a total of 6 times. The first time was January of 2015. And Kevin and I both started our Facebook groups roughly around the same time. I started the Zombie Plesiosaur Society in February of 2014, and he started Lake Monstrosities in, I believe, April of 2014. So I think the way we met is that he started seeing posts from the Zombie Plesiosaur Society and got in contact with me. This would have been about September of 2014. And then me and Jay Cooney, who was very active in the Zombie Plesiosaur Society, wound up being on the show in January of 2015 on Paraversal. So that was the start of a long and fruitful relationship that spanned half a decade. So I'm just glad I got to know Kevin and got to be part of his life for as long as I did, and he's my friend and I miss him. And I think we're all kind of still reeling from the loss,
Absolutely.
And when he went in the hospital, I was contacting Jennifer, at least once a day to find out what was going on, And when I heard this about his intestines, I was like, oh, no, that's serious. That's, when you start getting something in your internal organs, which is the machinery that the body runs on, that's serious stuff. So, I was hoping everything would turn around, but, unfortunately, it didn't. So,
Well, and that's one of the things you can sometimes go, if this was going to happen, is it a blessing that it happened fast? No, it's never a blessing when someone goes. But
well, I hope he didn't suffer, too much.
Well, I will say that Jennifer told me that they were holding hands and chatting in the ICU, so he had her. He was okay.
Yeah.
But
well, it was,
Max,
it was really a punch in the gut when it happened.
I know.
But none of us can be, feeling it as bad as Jennifer is,
Absolutely.
And
his
family,
mom
so.
and dad.
But they have my sympathies, my deepest sympathies, and anything I can do to help to carry on his legacy, I'm willing to do,
And that's what good friends do.
Yeah.
Max, I know that you're going to have to duck out because, it's not just a hot date, it's a big-time date. So...
Well, you're only 10 once.
You are. And that's double digits. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Plus, you got her ears pierced, so...
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
she is sassy.
But, I mean, Kevin will always be missed, and all I can say is the family has my deepest sympathies and condolences, and, if there's anything I can do in the future, just a phone call or an email away.
Before you go, can I ask you something?
Of course.
When all the times that y'all discussed and chatted and interviewed, what was your most fun memory?
I mean, it would be probably, I know we got into a really, I don't want to say passionate conversation, but it was really one of those like almost nail-biting things where we were discussing the possibility of macro-predatory sharks like Megalodon still being alive today. My forte is sea creatures. I mean, I write books about extinct marine reptiles on the loose and today and all that. So, whenever I used to be on the shows, it was always talking about krakens and giant octopuses and things of that nature. But we were discussing a lot of stuff about evidence that had been surfacing of late that there still seems to be some sort of species of shark out there that is in the 40-foot range or darn close to it. And because there would be photographs showing up of like whales or whale sharks with bites 4 feet across taken out of them, recently healed bites. And so, we got to discuss all these things, the parameters, the size of this creature, what it might be, a known species, an unknown species, where it might be, all sorts of stuff like that. So it was just, it was great to get into a conversation where, I mean, like some people in the, the general public, you say, oh, there's a 40-foot shark out there. Like, yeah, right. Okay. But if you have an open mind and if you actually look at the photographic evidence, which of course, a researcher like Kevin would do, you're able to explore the possibilities. It's not a question of if the thing was out there, because it is. Nobody's going around with a carving knife and convincing a 70-foot blue whale to hold still so they can cut a 5-foot chunk out of it and shape teeth marks and stuff, But, yeah, so, I just enjoyed the back and forth, the discussions and things like that, and the thrilling possibility of what if, imagine running into a creature like that type of stuff. Our conversations were usually pretty scientific and analytical. Not as much, it's not like when I'm on Scott's show where we're talking and there's half of it is you're laughing about stuff and things like that. But I thought we got into some really great discussions. But I would say that probably the giant shark conversation was one of my favorites.
Well, I could see that because, I'm a beach girl. So that always gives me pause. And yeah, I see things all the time in and around the water that I can't explain. There was a wash-up of the most bizarre-looking jellyfish. They were tubular and white, and they looked
Sounds
like
a
top
salp.
hat. A what?
Sounds like a salp.
A
or
salp?
A siphonophore. Yeah, it's a type of jellyfish.
Well, I've never seen them in my water. much less a whole herd of them washed up on the beach. And they had little, little tiny toes at the bottom of them. They looked like white top hats with toes. And a lot of toes, like tentacles, but very short. But I was just like, oh my gosh, what the heck is that? And I never got to talk about that with Kevin. And I'm sitting there thinking that would have been the perfect person to ask. Or you. So, either of y'all.
Yeah.
But such is life. I missed opportunities are what make me the most nuts.
Well, there are a lot of sea monster reports from the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
I've got several in my archives.
Now, I think we actually got to talk about the Carnival Cruise Monster when you said the Gulf, Scott, when I was on that last Paraversal Universe show. I think that was one of the topics we were discussing about that witness I had interviewed who had been on he'd worked on as a fitness director on a cruise ship, in a Carnival ship, and him and a bunch of passengers saw this gigantic marine creature swimming along beside the ship. And it was like a scene from one of my novels, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and based on they only saw like part of it, but the part they saw was 50 feet long.
Yeah.
And, with a giant blackish crocodile-shaped head and stuff, and that. And I remember we were talking about it on the show, and Kevin was really into it because it's like this sighting took place I think in 2014 or something like that. It wasn't long ago, and in the Gulf of Mexico, and it sounded for all intents and purposes like a gigantic mosasaur of some kind. So we really got into it. I don't know. I mean, Scott, did you and I talk about this on your show too? Or?
Yeah, we did a whole show on it at one point.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, my senior moments are becoming more and more frequent.
It's the excitement.
Well, I would think undoubtedly the most famous sea monster report from the Gulf is the attack on the teenage boys off Pensacola, Florida in 1962. There's a lot of controversy about how valid it is, but I think something happened,
Yeah.
So.
Well, one guy did not go out there and drown and kill four other men.
No, the drowning incident is confirmed. It's the sea monster part of it.
Hello?
There's no direct evidence of the sea monster part, but the drowning definitely did happen. There's old newspaper articles about it.
Yeah, one of my readers had suggested the possibility, and we're kind of diverting, from the general topic here, but I guess Kevin would approve. He wondered. Yeah, he wondered. The guy who one of my readers had asked this thing Scott's talking about, with this thing coming up out of the water, if it could have been an enormous squid. And I had mentioned there are a few anecdotal accounts of enormous squid attacking whales, and as it was fighting the whale, the squid would reach an arm up out of the high up and then smash it down on top of the whale to try and stun it. So maybe this head and neck that was coming up was the arm of an enormous squid.
Well, the guy definitely described a head with eyes and a mouth.
Well, think about it, though.
He made a sketch of it, so, I don't know.
But a squid's club would be head-shaped. The suckers could look like eyes.
Well, that's possible, yeah.
Yeah, and if it had
that's the thing with eyewitness testimony. Unless you've got some other corroborating evidence, you can't go back in a time machine and verify it. All you've got to work with is the testimony of the eyewitness. And if you put them on a lie detector test, all that's going to tell you is that they believe that's what happened. And the human memory doesn't work like a video recorder. Suggestions over time can distort people's memories and what they thought they saw. So, you can only go so far with it. But I don't know,
Either way, it would not be a good way to go.
Yeah.
Nope.
Eaten by a giant plesiosaur or eaten by a giant squid.
Well, I will tell you, I have made friends on Facebook with the son of Edward McCleary, the guy that it happened to. So,
is McCleary still alive?
No, he passed away, I think, in 2016.
That would have been.
But I am still friends with his son. I was trying to broker an interview through the son with the father, and unfortunately, he passed away before that happened. So, but I'm still friends with his son, Sean. So, yeah.
That was an interesting article, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because I had no idea. And why would you go out in a raft, a lifeboat basically, at dark, 5 miles out into the Gulf in a storm?
Well,
Yeah,
I don't think they
anyway.
purposely went out. I don't think they purposely went out in the storm. They were going to dive on a wreck. There's a ship. It's the USS something that's wrecked out there. They were going to dive on that wreck. I think it's maybe the USS Philadelphia. It's in the file that I sent you.
It is.
There's even a picture.
Yep.
And they got caught in a storm, and then all of a sudden this thing come up, the monster or whatever, and it's possible that maybe during the storm the monster got confused and came in closer than it would have normally come in, Who knows? There's all sorts of unknown factors there.
Well, if you think about it, Scott, though, like with the Gary LaMotta thing, it was right at the end of the storm also. So I don't think it's a matter of it getting confused. I think it's a matter of it takes advantage of the, sudden influx of prey in the shallows.
Yeah.
Fish get herded by the high pressure fronts. I've seen it on lakes and stuff. And you'll see all these smaller fish get herded into a small section, and then the big predators like the muskellunge and stuff, they follow them. So it's an opportunistic thing, and that's what happens. But it's unfortunately sometimes people take chances. I mean, there was an incident a few years back where 5 kids or something like that went out on a tiny little boat trying to go to a local island, play the guitar, and they all drowned. Their boat was too heavily loaded and so forth.
Well,
when you're young, make stupid decisions.
East of Pensacola, you've got Fort Walton and you've got Destin, and there are 2 long neck reports from there, from those 2 places. So there may be a connection between that with the Pensacola thing. Yeah, so I just don't know.
I lived in Destin.
Yeah, well, I used to go down there as a kid for vacation from Alabama when I was living there. So I spent a lot of time down there, too.
You know what? We're going to have to go to break. And Max,
we're
going to have to tell you goodbye.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm so sorry.
I appreciate you being here so much. And I know Jennifer does. And, I think that this is exactly what Kevin would like, is this discussion and sharing of information and
all his homies.
All his homies. Yep.
Yep.
So, thank you for being here. And Jennifer says that she loves all of y'all. So,
but we love her too.
Dang straight.
Talk to you soon, Max. And we are going to go to break while Max is heading out, and we will be right back. And they do stink.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back. Y'all are listening to Paraversal Universe here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. And I am not Jennifer. I am Kat Hobson. I am filling in because a bunch of Kevin Malek's friends wanted to do a memorial/tribute show, and that's what this is. And because it's Kevin, we are discussing his types of work and topics, and I am joined right now by Howie Odell and Scott Martis. We are having a great conversation. Max had to go, and then I believe that when Larry gets in the door, he's going to be calling us, and we'll add him back too. And I was told that Steve Carrington's wife had been ill, so I was trying to reach him, and we're just going to let him reach out when he can. So, because I know he really wanted to do this. So, I'm just very pleased to be able to do this and to have y'all, because both of y'all, worked with him, knew him, cared about him. Howie, I don't know how long you were working with him on just, show distributions and stuff like that, but besides being his friend, you were somebody involved with the show too. And I know that my work probably made you crazy sometimes.
No, not at all. Not at all. I actually met Kevin. I'm originally very dear friends with Jennifer. And I remember the conversation that Jennifer and I had. I just want to recall that when she met Kevin. And she's like, I've met somebody. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, he's really such a cool guy. And he's so smart. And I'm just really, really attracted to him. I'm like, well, go for it, girl. Don't wait. And the next thing I know, she's moving. I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. So that blossomed into a very beautiful friendship between the three of us. We did work together a couple of times. They helped me create the network that I'm on now, as far as giving me ideas and the foundation for it, because I was on another network and I wasn't happy there. And Jennifer and Kevin were right there and like, look, you need to do this. You really need to do this. Do it like that. I'm like, that's a great idea, and I'll add it with this. So that's how the riff came about. Kevin was a very unique individual. He empowered people. He gave them hope. He was direct. He had integrity like no one I've ever met before. He was blunt and straight. This is how it is. And there was some flex. Don't take me wrong. You could have a conversation with him, but just listen to what he had to say, and you could bounce off of each other. He was really good about bouncing. He really was. And he became like a brother to me. The many conversations that he and I and Jen would have late at night, just discussing issues after issues. I've been on Paraversal several times, and one of my memories was the show that we had about cemeteries. And that stands out to me because it was a really great conversation that prolonging into, if that's the word I want to use, into paranormal and possible activities, what could and what couldn't happen, how is this possible? As we traded theories, it really was a wonderful night. It really was. On air. And they've been on my show several times. The Orion Effect. They were paralogians, brother and sister paralogians of mine. I was honored with Kevin pronouncing me with the original name of Paralogia, and it just blossomed from there. So, you take that to heart when somebody dear to you gives you your name and says, this is who you are. And then it just branched out from there. So, he was inspirational. He was someone who guided others and taught. He taught so well on everything he knew. So, he was really a true pioneer of the modern age of paranormal and the supernatural, in my opinion.
Well, can I add something?
Please do.
Yeah, he was branching out into what he called paranormal sociology. And I think that I'm not exactly 100% sure, but I think the idea was studying the sociological effects of reports of the paranormal, which is an interesting idea. I mean, there are sociologists that study the paranormal, but they're usually more from a skeptical point of view in like trying to explain the essence of the paranormal as simply sociological phenomenon emerging from people's minds and their psychology. But I think what Kevin was trying to come at it from a believer's point of view, studying the same sociological phenomenon, if that makes any sense. You're getting into some deep stuff here, but that's my understanding of it. So he had even started a Facebook group called Paranormal Sociology
right,
to study this. So, if we're going to try to put together future books based on what he was talking about, we can go into these Facebook groups that he started about paranormal cryptozoology, paranormal sociology. We can actually take his posts that he posted in these groups and make text out of that for a book,
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, his ideas will live on if we just, go find them and put them in a book form,
Knowing him and knowing Jennifer as I do, I can almost tell you there's probably a 3-ring binder with Jennifer that has all the
probably
all the show notes, all the research to support them. Yes, no doubt.
He and I had just long conversations that are still preserved in my Facebook Messenger. I could go through there and just copy and paste into a Word file, and there's all that stuff too,
Absolutely. And I wish that I had that. I had the phone call, so it's just memorized. But to have that wording documented is a jewel.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's ways of doing this, It's just sitting down and doing it, But it can be done.
And that is
his ideas,
such a great thing.
Yeah, his ideas will live on if we do that, So
he will be legible.
We'll make up for the loss, this terrible loss that we've all experienced,
Well, and it's not just the people that were his friends. There were so many things that were... People followed him. He had followed them, not just him. But he had so many ideas that he brought to the fore that were really just kind of unexpected for most people.
Yeah.
And I just think that's very cool. I love that he did that. People would, like you were saying, he could discuss any topic, and he was just an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And I think that
he was not only grounded in cryptozoology, but also ufology, and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was a MUFON field investigator. I remember when he passed
Yep.
the test, he was so excited. And, you know, I'm going to add Robert Solomon of This Uncanny Earth to this call. And because Kevin and Jennifer were the first people that he ever interviewed for his show. And he has great respect and admiration for them and their work, too. But, Robert, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Kat.
Hey. Thank you. I'm glad that you were willing to let me bring you in because I know how special Kevin was to you and Jennifer. And the fact that they were your first guests, that's just so cool.
Yeah. It was if anybody goes back and listens to it, you'll see that he was a bit nervous because, you know, that it seems to always happen when you're on somebody's show because you don't know what to expect. You don't know how the dynamic's going to be between everybody involved. And it was 4 people. It was me, my co-host Spider, Jennifer, and Kevin. And, you know, I think he was a little nervous at first, but once he broke out of that, it was the one of the best conversations I've had with anybody. I mean, he knew his stuff, you know, and I was just like, this guy knows what he's talking about, you know, and he was that.
He always knew what he was talking about.
he was that nice fine line between, you know, where you meet folks that you can tell they're off the deep end, you know, they're not altogether there. And the hardcore skeptic that's like, I don't believe in any of that. He was perfect. When you talk to him, you were like, man, this guy knows his stuff, but at the same time, he's not crazy. And it was a nice breath of fresh air because Lord knows, you know, doing our show and stuff, we've met some folks that,
gave you pause, right?
Yeah, just a bit. But Kevin was awesome. And then being on their show, it was my first time that I was ever on an actual radio station. And it was just like, wow, you know, to me, it was one of the steps of making it, of actually like, okay, so now I'm at the next step and I'm at the next level and I'm interacting with all these awesome people. And then I met you and then we were all, it was an awesome time and Kevin will definitely be missed.
Well, absolutely. And Howie, I'm supposed to be giving you Jennifer's love and Robert, you too.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer.
So, and Scott, you've been getting it all through the show. But,
thank you. I appreciate it.
You know, I think that's one of my favorite things is that he was so versatile. There was nothing that he couldn't discuss. If you needed somebody, or if you just needed to talk to somebody, I don't know how many shows I actually listened to them on, but I mean, they were on Coast to Coast a year or so before I was, I think. And that was such a huge thing because it was all new. They did a great job and it was interesting. They're both some of the most interesting people on the face of the planet. So, and now above. Yep, Jennifer said, yep, we discussed Tesla. You had just said that in the other chat.
Yeah.
Which is something I can go on for days about. I love that.
And that
topic.
I was so fired up. They got me so fired up. I mean, they have some of the same books that I have on Tesla. I was like, wait a minute, because we were comparing notes back and forth before the show, and he sent me this. I think it was a page. It was like he was talking. I was like, wait a minute. I know I have exactly what you're talking about in another book that I have on my bookshelf. And so I'm looking, I'm like, this is the exact same book. And so we vibed off that. And then they showed me a picture of their library. And I was like, one of these days I want to come out and visit. Because, I mean, my book collection is decent. It's not bad, you know, especially being in the field that I'm in and having, you know, this Uncanny Earth. I'm consistently researching everything I can get my hands on. But they just, I mean, I thought I had a lot of books. They overshadowed me by miles. And it was such a really refreshing thing like I was talking about in the chat, to meet other folks. Like I'm so blessed to have met them, you, and so many different people, because when I was younger, I didn't think a lot of people believed this kind of stuff. I thought people were just like, if I told people that, they were kind of like, oh yeah, you're kind of crazy, you're a crackpot. Okay, I'm not going to talk to you. But now there's millions and millions and millions of people, and I'm just like, man, I wish this would have been around when I was a kid, because man, I would have, it'd have been really awesome.
And some of us are old. And we are going to go to our news break. We will be back. This is a great time to stretch your legs, fill whatever beverage and cup that you're going with, and we'll be back. Thank you so much for being here, listening to Paraversal Universe, and honoring Kevin Malek and Jennifer Malek. So we'll catch you on the flip side.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. Democratic House prosecutors winding up their arguments at President Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial today are insisting the president only release congressionally approved money for military aid to Ukraine because he had, quote, gotten caught withholding it. Lead House Manager Representative Adam Schiff saying it goes to the heart of the abuse of power charges against the president.
What President Trump did when abusing his office and demanding Ukraine open an investigation into Joe Biden was not fighting corruption. It was not part of established U.S. anti-corruption policy. That corrupt pressure campaign for his own personal political benefit, in fact, subverted U.S. anti-corruption efforts in Ukraine and undercut our national security.
Trump, in a message on Twitter, meanwhile, criticized the trial schedule, saying his lawyers will be forced to start tomorrow, which is Saturday, a day he referred to as Death Valley in TV. President Trump will sign a much-anticipated trade deal with Mexico and Canada at a White House ceremony next week. More from NPR's Franco Ordonez.
While the impeachment trial continues today and over the weekend, President Trump joined thousands of anti-abortion rights activists today for the March for Life in Washington, D.C., and he plans to release his long-awaited Middle East peace plan in the next few days before Tuesday's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his political rival Benny Gantz. On Wednesday, Trump will sign the trade deal known as USMCA.
I think the American people see that somebody's working for them and someone's working for their own political interests.
That's Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley. He says the American people are watching the president, quote, rack up victories while Democrats pursue an illegitimate impeachment. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
As the president appeared at the annual March for Life rally, his administration is threatening California for requiring insurers to include abortion coverage in their plans. Here's NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin.
This action comes from the Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights. Its director, Roger Severino, has made clear that protecting conscience rights is his priority. Today, Severino said that California was in violation of the Weldon Amendment, with its state law that requires insurance companies to include abortion coverage in all plans. California has 30 days to rescind the law to come into compliance. The or else here isn't totally clear. The office can withhold federal funding, but Severino did not specify how much federal funding might be at stake. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
China is further expanding its lockdown against the deadly coronavirus to an unprecedented 36 million people. The number of confirmed cases of the new virus has risen to more than 850, with at least 26 deaths. The virus worries weighed on Wall Street today. The Dow was down 170 points. You're listening to NPR. Investigators now say an aerial tanker plane that crashed while battling wildfires in Australia had just finished dropping flame-retardant liquid on a fire line when it went down. 3 U.S. crew members from Montana, Arizona, and Florida were identified by their Canadian employer. Their deaths came during an unprecedented wildfire season in Australia that has left a large swath of destruction in the country's southeast section. More than 30 people have died so far, including 3 Australian volunteer firefighters. A team has been sent to Australia to recover the bodies of the U.S. victims. The European Union is asking its highest court to freeze a new Polish law it believes undermines the independence of the country's judiciary. From Brussels, Terry Schultz reports the EU warned Warsaw was overstepping with the new measures.
The Polish government, led by the Eurosceptic Law and Justice Party, has clashed with the EU regularly since coming to power in 2015, especially over its changes to the judicial system. Brussels has already opened its first-ever censure proceedings against Warsaw. The latest battle is over a law passed Thursday by the Law and Justice-dominated parliament that allows the dismissal of judges who criticize those changes. European Commission spokesman Christian Wiegand.
The Commission is very concerned about the rule of law situation in Poland. We had expressed our concerns on several occasions.
Some Polish courts have been postponing decisions because the Supreme Court warned it may question rulings made by judges appointed under the government's new laws. For NPR News, I'm Terry Schultz in Brussels.
Crude oil futures prices closed lower today. Oil down $1.40 a barrel, ending the session at $54.19 a barrel in New York. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back. You are indeed listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. And no, you're not hearing things incorrectly. I am Kat Hobson. I am hosting this special edition of Paraversal Universe, and we are honoring and celebrating memories and the life of Kevin Malek. We miss him. He passed away recently, and his wife Jennifer hopefully is going to be continuing on with what she does. And we've had offers from the entire list of guests to stand in and help with that. So hopefully when she can get a little centered, and so it's just way too soon, I'm sure, for her now. But when she's ready, we're ready, and they're ready too. So thank you for joining us. We are having a really neat time. Right now, we have Larry DeMisa back. He had stepped out and has joined us back. We have Scott Martis, who is just fantastic. Well, let me say, Larry is who did the Paraversal Universe banners, and his son did the Lake Monstrosities profile, or cover photo, cover picture, and talk about art running in a family. They're both astounding. He also did the cover for today's show. Scott is the expert on the Lake Champlain monster, and if you doubt it, listen to him talk about it. Go check his work out. He is brilliant, and he's been everywhere on all the shows discussing this. It's just wonderful. And we have Robert Solomon from This Uncanny Earth, who is joining us, and he is, like me, covering all things anomalous. He's just really a fascinating person. And as an example, his show last night was on the Hollow Earth, and I missed it because I was not online. So I am going to go back and listen to that archive. It's one of my favorite topics, and we were just discussing that, guys. Thank you so much for all being here. And just so you know, Max Hawthorne he had to leave. He has a father-daughter dance tonight. So, go Max. And thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for having
me.
And, we were just discussing all these things. And, I am pretty fascinated by the fact that all of us worked with Kevin in different capacities. And there's so many things. There were so many things that he was a genius at. There were so many things that he educated me in, and we actually had a question in chat that said, I'm trying to find how he worded it, and he wanted to know, because I would listen to him. He was on Fridays, and I was always on Wednesdays, so I could listen to them, and I enjoyed that so much. And Sue wanted to know what I learned from him. as far as doing interviews, doing shows. And there's just so much. I learned personally, if you don't ask, you don't get. Get those people, an email. Ask somebody to come on your show with you. Spend time talking to them and learning what they do. I have learned so much. I've done my show for 5.5 years. They did theirs for, I think, 6, if I'm not mistaken, Jenny. Maybe 6.5. But they were about a year ahead of me. And Denise Pridemore was a year behind me. We're all graduates of the Paranormal King Radio Network. So I think that getting my education from not being afraid to speak to people who know so much more than I do about a variety of anomalous topics is what I learned from Kevin. I learned a lot about his expertise as well, because he was always willing to share, and he presented the information in his guests in such a great manner that you actually learned so much from them. Jennifer is somebody who has been kind of a mentor and guide for me. I don't know if she knows that too, but hopefully. And I just think that being taught not to be afraid, step up to the bat, get these people. They're wanting to have someone to talk to also. They have reasons that they might need to get a little promotion. And mainly, they just like to talk about what they like to talk about. And if you like it too, you're going to learn something as a rule. That's cool. So what did you guys take away from your relationship as far as advancing your knowledge base or something of that nature?
I think I'll let Scott. Let Scott go first with that one.
I will say that Kevin was constantly contacting me, asking me about specific lake monster information, and as I was always sending him files, PDF files from. Us scholars are not afraid to admit they don't know something and ask somebody that they think does. If I don't know something, at least I have a good idea of where to go look,
Yep.
And Kevin was really good at that. And he had a really laid-back style, He wasn't aggressive. That turns a lot of people off when you're overly aggressive in your approach to something.
Yes.
I mean, you can be just as knowledgeable as the aggressive people and not, you don't put people off by being overly aggressive in your questionings and acting like, oh, I know as much about this as you do,
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And that
sometimes
was
you don't.
One thing that was great about Kevin, is that he didn't come off, like I was talking earlier, like some people come off as arrogant and know-it-all, and,
He wasn't overbearing.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he was very knowledgeable and had done his homework about things.
Every show.
And
Every show.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't brag and boast about it like a lot of people do,
I know. That's one of the
That's
things
great.
that I learned. That would fall into that category, too. I try, because my shows are more information, conversational, where his were very structured. I felt like they were structured. And
yeah, well,
I think that's a good thing for what he was doing.
Yeah, it is. Because, when you're doing a show, you only have so much time. And if you sit down and think about it and to hit the main points, you can usually get in the main information you're trying to get across before the time runs out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've done shows before that were 2 hours long, and it's just like, boom, it's over. Before you know it, you don't even realize the time is gone,
Yep, I have that happen a lot, and it's not because I'm unstructured, but my guests have so much to share. And
I prefer
it's just
doing
bizarre.
a long show myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a space of an hour, I don't really have enough time
Exactly.
to do the basic setup explanation to get to the points I'm trying to make before the time runs out, you know?
Yes. And, yeah, that's one of the best things about the kind of work that y'all do. And, Robert, I know that I feel that way with your guest and you, is that you do the setup, you do teach, you do explain, and I didn't know anything about, well, I did, but not much, about what you do. I have never been in search of anything that could eat me or pull me underwater. Doubtful I ever will. But, but your knowledge that you share so well helps people like me to be able to say, okay, I'm going to have to take this from here. This is just too much. And learn. Your teaching. Kevin was a great teacher.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And maybe part of what I was trying to say is that in order to be a great teacher, you have to be a great learner to begin with.
Yep.
In order to learn this stuff, to be able to teach it, you have to understand it.
And the one thing I don't think a lot of people understand about what we do, this is the easy part. Out of all of it, to me, the talking, the easiest part. People don't understand that there's nights I don't go to bed till 4 a.m. because I'm on something, and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, let me look at this other source, and all of a sudden, boom, I find a break doing something else. I might not go to bed till 4 o'clock, and I have a 4-year-old son, so I'm back up at 6. So I might only get 2 hours of sleep. And then, it's off the next day. And we're constantly researching. We're constantly meeting other people with like minds, because a book can only teach you so much. Maybe if I'm going over a theory and I'm like, man, let me contact my buddy and see what he says. Yep. Oh, there's this avenue. Okay, now I'm on another wild chase to figure out what's going on. And with Kevin, you understood that. When you talked to him, when you were on his show, or even in just Messenger, not even a voice, just messaging back and forth and talking, you knew that when you were talking to him, you were talking to a man who knew what he was talking about. Yeah. So you didn't have to kind of teach him. You learned from him. And that was,
and he always asked the right questions too.
Yes, always,
which is important.
Yeah. He was also very open-minded too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Very open-minded.
Because you could disagree with him, and it wouldn't turn into a shouting match or angry.
Argument. Yeah.
Right. You would still walk away being friends.
We had a friendly discussion about paranormal cryptozoology in which we took different stances on it. And what came out of that was a 2-hour show where we had a panel discussion.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because we really went over the point.
And Kevin and Jennifer could captivate you. So when I was on their show and they were on ours, we'd be talking so much that I'd look at the clock and I'm like, no, it's almost time for the show to end. And I still have 15 other points that I want to talk about with these people.
That's what happened with the show we did, this roundtable discussion. And we were planning on doing a part 2 until all this happened, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was going to have them back on my show. And when Kevin was in the hospital, because his mom had posted that up online. I'm like, oh, let me check on Kevin. He's a good dude, good friend of mine. Let me check on him. And he was like, was I supposed to be on your show or something? I'm like, we didn't set a date, but it was something I was gonna have you both on again in the future. Just get better, whatever, get at me, whenever. And then I woke up that morning and I saw that Jennifer had posted that, and just like it hit, because losing somebody that is in the same field as you and that you've talked to and you have a high respect for, like I did for Kevin, it hurt. It was just like, it was family.
Yeah,
I never met him.
It was a punch in the gut.
I agree.
I mean,
you don't have to meet. Yeah.
No, and I didn't meet him personally, but I still felt like I lost a good friend today. Like he was a good friend.
Yes, because you did.
I was messaging Jennifer about how the surgery went, And the last message she came back to me, she said, he passed about an hour ago, and I was just devastated.
Oh, yeah. We still are.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's still raw, you know?
I still expect to see him post something in Ultimate Conspiracies, because that's one of my favorite pages from them, is Ultimate Conspiracy, because I enjoy a good conspiracy theory. And
absolutely.
And I don't see that. And I'm just like, it hurts.
I'm still expecting to get a message.
We can do hole there as best as we can, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah. I'm still expecting to get a message from him telling me about next week's guest and which banner we need, and come up with something, you know? Because I would either, get some ideas from Kevin, or I would get, ideas from the actual guest, or I would just, go from my imagination. And then I would kind of feed off of Kevin and feed off of the guest and say, okay, what's fitting for you and your mindset, and go from there, And I keep expecting that, and it's like, I know it's not going to come, but it's just hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like, we were close, and I was there for a lot of things. Like, I remember when him and Jennifer got married, and I remember when his son passed away. He took that really hard,
That is always a hard thing.
Yeah, I mean,
With me, I think I only knew Kevin, for not even a year. I probably knew him, I want to say, I was on their show back in May, and I think I only knew him maybe 6-7 months. And I felt like I knew him for like 10, 15 years. Just having conversations with him. Like, I didn't know this, but now I know this. And that's thanks to Kevin, and I appreciate that.
We spoke on Messenger at least every other day, So.
It was a kindred spirit.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, he shared that with a lot of people. That experience, almost like the brothers from other times or something. Well, I was going to say that, but his mom's in chat. You can't say that. But
one thing me and him had in common, we were both musicians too. He was a great guitar
he was
player.
a great musician.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So.
It's not a shabby drummer either.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was. I just knew about the guitar.
We liked a lot of that kind of music, so we had.
Yeah, I knew that he was a member of MUFON, and that was one of the main reasons that I brought on Geraldine Stiff, because Geraldine, I don't know if you're not too familiar with Geraldine, but Geraldine, her father was involved in that famous Hopkinsville incident from 1955. And I had suggested her as a guest, to Kevin and Jenny, and Kevin brought her on, and she was a guest on there, I believe, 2 or 3 times. And Geraldine's a really good friend of mine. Her and her husband Chris, and I'm a huge fan. I mean, not just I don't want to say fan, but that story in particular, the Hopkins, the Kelly incident.
That was the origin of the little green man concept.
The origin of the little green man. There was also the origin of E.T. It was the origin of Gremlins. It was the origin of Poltergeist. Everything spun out of that movie. Well, not that movie, but that story. And Geraldine came on, and she had already written her first book. And Kevin and Jenny were both very receptive to her. And another friend of mine who lives locally here in Ohio, he lives in Eastlake. He's been videotaping and video recording UFOs off of Lake Erie for like the last 12, 13 years. And he was even the subject. He was even in a Dan Aykroyd documentary. You know, it got to the point where he was recording these things so much off of Lake Erie that he got bored. He actually stopped videotaping because every day he would go outside of his house by the shores of Lake Erie, he'd see these things. And when he turned on the night vision on his video recorder, you could see how high or how far off, you know, the lake that they were actually flying. And this is in a no-fly zone near the Perry Nuclear Power Plant.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you bring that up because I live in Ohio too. So
yeah,
I live in the Akron area, and I've heard about UFOs over Lake Erie. So that's And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was like, hey, a fellow Ohioan, which is awesome because there's very few of us.
Michael Lee Hill. He's been on the show 2 times, and he was like everyone was very receptive to Mike,
mm-hmm.
and he's still, you know, I mean, he's very knowledgeable about, you know, ufology. He's very knowledgeable about, you know, Zecharia Sitchin and his
awesome.
books. And he's also very knowledgeable about, you know, what he's learned from his contacts, because according to Mike, he's been contacted by whoever's controlling these things that are flying over the lake.
Ivan Sanderson wrote a book about this called Invisible Residents
mm-hmm.
back in the 1970s.
Yep.
Who wrote that?
Ivan Sanderson.
He was one of the guys that knew about the Flatwoods Green Monster, and he actually was he did an interview where he talks about the Flatwoods Green Monster.
Long interview on YouTube from like 1954, somewhere in there,
mm-hmm.
where he's interviewing one of the guys. Yeah.
That's another one of my favorite.
Cryptozoology too.
It's another one of my favorite stories from ufology is Flatwoods Monster.
Absolutely. That was one of my first interviews with somebody that had, you know, the curator of the museum.
Yep. Andrew Smith.
Yes. And got to talk to some people that had history with that. So
I'm actually related to Kathleen May, who saw the Lemons, because I have Lemons, Rose, Starcher, Rawlinson. Like, my bloodline is down in that area of West Virginia, Sutton, Flatwoods, Braxton County as a whole, Gassaway. And when I was going through that, and Andrew told me, he said, you're probably related to all those people, because if you're related to the last names you just told me, that's most of who those people were, which was just eye-opening. So yeah, it's definitely one of my probably top in terms of ufology. I always mess that word up, just the way I say it, but that's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
Kevin and I are actually. Go ahead.
Kevin and I, you know, within like the last, you know, year, we've been trying to get another friend of, I believe he's a friend of Scott's, Jeff Meldrum.
Oh yeah,
Jeff Meldrum.
I'm friends with him on Facebook, but I'm not that close with him. I've spoken to him a couple of times, but yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Meldrum. I liken Jeff Meldrum to Scott because Jeff.
That's as good as it gets.
Jeff Meldrum is to Bigfoot as Scott Martis is to lake monsters, basically, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, because, you know, Jeff Meldrum, he's the guru of Bigfoot and Sasquatch research. And
he's the one carrying on the legacy of Grover Krantz.
Yeah, and we were Kevin and I were both trying to get him on the show. And unfortunately, you know, due to Jeff's schedule and also, you know, our own personal tragedy of losing Kevin, that'll probably never see fruition, but you never know, because I mean, if Jennifer is still planning on carrying on the show, like she told me the other day, you know, that could also still be a possibility of getting Jeff on the show. But yeah, we had been talking about that, and we'd also, you know, I had talked about or toyed around with the idea of actually coming back on the show again. I mean, I'm not here today, but unfortunately for all of us, we're memorializing our friends.
Well, I stand by, ready to help, whenever anybody needs me. So just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And if Jennifer ever wants to come on my show and be a guest and talk about Kevin, the invitation's always there. We did a memorial show for him, I think 2 or 3 shows ago, where we just talked about, how awesome he was and being on our show and I on his show. So if Jennifer needs anything from us, from this uncanny earth, all she has to do is just reach out. We'll do what we can.
Well, I think that's cool. I'm going to add Steve Carrington now. So if y'all will bear with me.
Yep.
Okay.
So he had just
finally got a hold of him.
Yeah. We'll see if it goes. And if not, y'all will get to hear his voicemail. No, yay. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Kat, how are you?
Terrific. We have, we don't have Howie. We have Scott Martis. We have Robert Solomon. And we have Larry, Larry DeMesa here.
Yep.
And we were just talking about all the cool things that people got to experience and learn and enjoy with Kevin. And thank you for getting with me.
Oh, sure. And I'm so sorry for getting on late. As I stated, I just got in from an appointment.
Well, I'm just glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Steve, how is Lori? Is she doing okay?
Yeah. How you doing, Scott?
Good.
Yeah, we're hanging in there.
Good.
But yeah, I'm glad I made it to be on the show. I like many others are really missing Kevin, and it was a total shock, to me, to the system. Something like this happens, in the blink of an eye, and there's just not much you can really say about it, other than, it's just, a shocking time, and we all just have to kind of come together.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was like I was telling Kat, we did that paranormal cryptozoology roundtable about 3 weeks before Kevin passed.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was looking forward to doing a part 2. I think he had mentioned, coming back for part 2, and I'm like, this is just so eye-opening, how things can change in a blink of an eye.
Yep.
But as I was saying, my heart goes out to Jen right now and the family. I can't believe, I really don't know how she could feel losing someone that close. I've never lost someone this close. I mean, I've lost 2 friends in the past 2 months, and Kevin was one of them. But I can't even begin to, fathom losing a soulmate. So my heart really goes out to her at this time.
Well, she says that she loves all of you, and thank you for being here.
Well, Kevin was loved by many, and her, and they were always the kindest of people. Especially, I can't speak for everyone, but at least to me, they were cordial and friendly. It was like, family.
Yep.
Yeah, he was one of a kind.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is definitely true. They broke the mold when they made him.
Yes, and he was very open-minded like myself, and I took that to heart. He would listen to my theories and, not push out them, and, that's what I think I liked most about him. He was one of the most open-minded, friends I had. I don't know. It's
just devastating.
Yes, it is. It was too fast.
Yes.
And it was to pass on that early is just just always. Who are we to say, when we're going to go,
That's true. That's why we should always be ready. But can I ask who has the submarine?
The who?
The
Not me.
beeping. It sounds like a submarine.
Submarine. Oh, that's probably me.
That was just unexpected. One of my guests said, that sounds like a submarine. Not one of the guests, one of the audience. So
It's because I'm probably because I'm in a grocery store.
There you go. You're checking out.
Yep.
That's
exactly.
dedication, Larry. Thank you.
Hey.
We appreciate that.
Gotta do what I gotta do.
You absolutely do.
Larry, Larry checked out long ago.
Y'all are so bad. It's so
See,
funny.
you're still picking on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, Steve, because we have been talking about different things that we enjoyed and different things that we experienced and learned from Kevin. But what was your favorite experience that you had with him? Do you have? Can you narrow it down, or do you have like too many?
That's really hard to pick from because, like I said, we were very open-minded to all ideas between us. I don't know. Above all, I think I liked his work in the paranormal field. Of course, with his going on ghost investigations and things like that. But he was so diverse. I mean, it's hard to pick.
I know, right? He was very diverse. He loved every topic.
Yeah, he was a true Fortean. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
He expanded the whole field. Like I cover ufology and everything too, and cryptids and things, and he did too. So he was a true Fortean in that sense.
I agree.
Yes.
Yep. Definitely.
Well, he was brilliant with that. He was not ever closed.
No, he didn't close his mind off to anything that could, the possibilities out there, which none of us really should. Right. Exactly.
If you shut your mind to things, then
you never learn.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Tom McGuire in chat said he always said the phrase, "We are a love and light society," talking about the NWPS, on the paranormal side. That's pretty much it.
Right. I was just reminiscing, trying to think, exactly when I met Kevin. I had never met him personally, but I met him on Facebook when I first started.
Maybe you met him through me. I don't know.
Possibly. I mean, we all started groups pretty much around the same time.
Yep, 2014,
I know,
Lake
think. Monstrosities and Lake Plesiosaur and, Zombie Plesiosaur and my group and his other Ultimate Conspiracy. They all started about the same time, and that's about the time.
Anomalous Universe.
Yep.
Yes, I love Anomalous Universe, by the way. But I love all of y'all's groups.
Yeah, we
were all constantly cross-pollinating, posting in each other's groups, too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Still are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all administrating in each other's groups, too, so we became good, close friends.
Yep.
So it was kind of like a family kind of relationship.
Well, it is. And, I go to all of those pages to educate myself. And
hey, I'm learning every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Every day.
I've been doing this for 5 years, the shows, and what you can learn just by paying attention and build up is just like, and listen to the people that want to teach. Kevin loved to teach, and that was something that he did at every show. I never got to hear him lecture live. I would have so loved to do that. But
another thing I was
did anybody videotape his lecture at the conference in Chicago?
Jenny might know that.
She's in chat, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure Jenny might know that.
She'll answer. She's listening. But, you know, one of the things that I think are my favorite is that when he would have even a difference of opinion, he was always professional and courteous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even when you knew he was probably a little ticked off at you, it was not the end of the world ever, because he was professional and would talk through it. And, you know, I didn't know him like y'all did, as in, you know, y'all know so much more than I do. But he was just really a gentleman.
Yes.
And
that's a good word.
Man, was he smart.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
I mean, seriously.
As a whip, yeah.
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 And he didn't make you feel dumb if you didn't know it.
Nope.
Which was fantastic. You didn't feel inferior. You were like, I don't want to talk to this guy. He's got a sense of arrogance. When he talked to you, it was like a teacher explaining something to you so that you could take it in and then think about it yourself, and then come back and be like, this is what I think. And he'd be like, okay, well, what about this? Okay. And then you're like, well, what about this? And then next thing you know, it's 7 hours later, and you're like, man, it's already daytime. You know, it's just Kevin was that type of person to me. Like, he was just somebody you could talk to for hours upon hours, and the conversation never gets old, because as soon as you're done maybe talking about the dog men, all of a sudden it jumps into the Men in Black, and then from there it jumps into the Mothman, and then Loch Ness, and then you just keep going and going and going, and you never run out of things to talk about. And that was one of the best things about Kevin, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's why I
A
said
constantly questing mind.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
he was totally across the 40 in scope. He didn't. He was open-minded to all and willing to talk about all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a lot in this field now, especially in the on topic of Sasquatch or Bigfoot. These egos come in.
Yes.
In these groups. Yeah. And
oh man. Yeah.
He never ever had an air of an ego or anything about him.
Ever.
It's just no.
And he never talked about anybody behind their back ever. Not once.
Nope.
Yeah.
But guys, we have to take a little break, and we will be right back. Y'all come back too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour. Hello there. Thank you so much for staying with us. I know that breaks are so annoying, but we have to do them sometimes. I am Kat Hobson. I am hosting this edition of Paraversal Universe Radio for Jennifer. And this is a tribute and a celebration of Kevin Malek, who we lost recently. And he is somebody that there'll never be another one. I said earlier that they broke the mold when they made him, and that's pretty true. But we are joined right now. We've had people in and out, but we are joined right now by Steve Carrington and Scott Martis, Robert Solomon, and Larry DeMizzo. And I am so thrilled that all of y'all were able to be here. This has just been a great discussion. We had Howie Odell earlier and Max Hawthorne. And I love the tag teaming. I think that it's really cool. Because all of y'all are so knowledgeable in your own right? That's why y'all were peers of Kevin. And y'all all liked and loved each other. So that's pretty cool.
That's true.
They play off of each other very well.
Yeah.
Believe me, there's people in the paranormal community that we don't like. You can rest assured of that.
We are not going there. They need
I'm not
listeners.
No, we're not doing that.
This ain't a hater show.
Yeah, but, stuff like that happens. People have differing opinions. People are a little bit too busy to have conversations or whatever, and it happens.
Right.
Difference
You get the arrogant. Save the haterade for tomorrow.
I don't partake in any of that. I don't partake in the haterade. I'll leave that for the folks who think they know it all. Because there's always those people.
Yes.
Hey, there's always someone that knows more than us.
True.
Always.
True.
Yeah,
and that's the
what
fun
I was
of
saying
it.
Earlier, before we went to break, Kevin never showed any. There's so many egos in this field now that, I'm a professional in Bigfoot. How can you be a professional in something that's not even categorized yet?
Who gets paid for Bigfoot work? Not many.
Well, that's okay. It's like all the experts in the paranormal field.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And something
all
that's
these
not even
paranormal
proven.
shows on TV now, half of them are just laughable.
Yeah,
the ones
but
right
they
now
do that
seem
for the
to.
ratings too.
They do.
It's for entertainment purposes.
Exactly.
But, mainly the most.
And I'm not gonna lie. I got roped into a couple of them. Because
I did too.
I enjoy it. But to me, I'm more of a person that likes to go to these places and explore them for a time that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yep.
Instead of sitting in a room for an hour and going, so can somebody make a noise? That level of what we do, it's interesting, but it doesn't excite me as much as going to a place. Whoa, how many people died here or lived here, or what were their lives like? And to me, the history is what is the most fascinating part of these locations. Not so much the ghosts and spirits and stuff, which I think is cool too. But give me the books about this place and let me know what happened here so that I can kind of take it all in, because the monument's crazy.
Well, a lot of the time, dragging a TV crew around with you gets in the way of doing any productive research.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. It's
and learning from other people.
Right.
Yep.
It's rough enough when you want to explore a place and it's like a tour group, because I went to the Trans-Allegheny, and they're like, yeah, you got to go with this tour guide, and I'm like, I can't just go explore this place by myself. I'm not going to get hurt, I promise. And they're like, no, and I'm like, one of these days.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like that too. I like to do things, or try to do things on my own, to experience things firsthand. And if you got a crowd, or you got camera, God forbid, camera crew there, you're not gonna really enjoy it or understand, experience it for yourself.
Right.
But
especially if there's a camera on you. That's because then you have to act a certain way. You know, you can't act. You can't be a goofball. Like, I'm a goofball with my friends. So a camera on us, oh man, that'd be bad.
Yeah, that's like me too. I mean, in my group, I like to show a little humor and levity because the field can be dark at times, quite often. And I don't mind a little levity used, but of course, I don't like people being belittled or anything, but I will use humor in my group and stuff like that, and so did Kevin. And we joked around that way, back and forth, So we kind of do that like brothers. So
Steve knows how to lay down the law.
Yep.
Yeah, especially in his group.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And that was the one thing. Another thing of the many that I liked about Kevin is that, you meet some folks in the fields that we're in, and they're really dry when they explain things. So, with me, I don't really, I want some energy and some pep behind what you're talking about, or otherwise I'm going to think you don't care about it either. You're just repeating the same things that I've heard on TV and read before. Right. But with Kevin, he was like I said before, he was so passionate about what he talked about. You couldn't help be passionate about it too. He could talk about paint drying, and you're like, this is some good paint drying right now, people. Yeah. I'm in. Let's do that.
And look at that texture as it dries up.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's running. Somebody's got to fix this run right here. This run is messed up. Yeah, exactly.
I mentioned that earlier, though, about Kevin was very enthusiastic about every subject that everything that we talked about on the show. Be it UFOs, be it Bigfoot, be it lake monsters, be it even religion-related subjects. Mm-hmm. He was very enthusiastic. Him and Jenny both.
Yes.
And you could talk religion with him, which is it's very hard to talk religion with people without it turning into a gigantic disaster. He could talk religion and politics with him, and it wouldn't break out into like, when I see you, we're going to have the fist fight, and that was so awesome because there's very few people you can do that with in this day and age anyways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, with the conspiracy theory side of him, he was very conservative, but he would listen. And I really, the very first time I heard one of his conspiracy shows, I was like, oh my gosh, they are so going to be in trouble. I can't believe they're saying this out loud. And when they had Angel on with them, I was just like, yikes. I loved her. Yeah. I always had to bite
my tongue in regards to politics around Kevin. So
yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I just kept it real. I didn't want to.
Would have just made a discussion.
What were
I don't post. Well, where's politics?
Yeah.
Like Kat said, he's more conservative minded. From what I gathered.
But he wasn't judgmental.
No.
And
no,
not at
he would hear you out though. He wouldn't judge you. He just hear you out. That's your. He respected your opinion, and that was what was great about him too. It's like, okay, that's your opinion.
And you could walk away.
We have different opinions.
You could walk away still being respectful.
Between me and him, because I'm a liberal, and it never came up as an issue. So we must have never discussed politics.
Oh, I thought you were a Baptist.
No.
No, he baptizes people. He baptizes people along with the sea cows down in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get out of the way for a lightning strike somebody.
Well, I think that was. Oh, I'm gonna share this because we don't have but about 6 minutes left. But Tom McGuire just posted in the Spreaker chat, and I so share this opinion. I actually said it in one of the promotions I put out for this. And that is that now Kevin has all the answers. I firmly believe that. I know that he is. Well, I know that he is in communication with Jen, and I want to.
Yeah, Tom's been on the show a bunch of times.
Yeah, but I mean, Kevin is in communication with Jen, and I'm just like, you know what? I mean, because we did the Paralegion report together and stuff, so always a blessing. But I'm like, I want to know those answers. And it's just like, but he knows. I mean, I truly think that that's part of what this does is that, you know, Jennifer said that he has the notebooks full. I don't doubt it. So I journal when I'm doing research too. But, you know, it's just so amazing that doing what we do, we know that this isn't an ending.
No.
I mean, I'm thoroughly convinced that this isn't an ending.
Too. No,
and
I think this is just one part of our journey while we're here. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that whether you choose to go and explore and do something else, I believe in incarnation and reincarnation, and I believe in soul contracts. So Jennifer says he needs to help her write the actual handbook for the recently deceased. So I'm perfectly positive that will happen if that's what you really want, because he would be right there with you. But, you know, I think that probably is where we can find comfort, is in knowing that he's a Paralegion and that he has the knowledge base and that, you know, that he is one to do the research. So that's that guy.
Very true. Yep.
I've been meeting a lot of people lately who believe in a spiritual dimension of the universe, but they believe all the dogma of religious dogma and the different religious sects, that all this dogma they put on top of it is merely a tool to access it, if that makes any sense. And that's the idea that I'm swinging around to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I believe there's something out there.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
that we go on in some form, a different form of energy or whatever, you know?
There's got to be more than what we have here. I mean, it's just...
Well, what we have here, it's illogical that this would be it.
Very so.
But by the same token, everybody's religious dogma can't be right. There's so much argument over that. So.
Well, it's something to keep the masses fighting so that they don't pay attention to the men behind the curtain.
There you go.
It's very effective.
Yep.
Just watch out for those flying monkeys.
Don't make me call out my flying monkeys now. Seriously. But, you know, we've got 2 minutes. Anybody have any final things that you want to say?
This is Steve.
Well, I want to say that... go ahead, Steve.
This is Steve, and this is going out to Jen personally and family. He's always with you there, Jen, and he's always with us. So, yes, we're all grieving, and like I said, we cannot feel the amount of grief you're feeling because you lost a soulmate. But, like you have said, he's still communicating, and I think he will continue. And when you're that close, the bond doesn't break. So you just hang in there. It'll get better. And we miss you, Kevin, bro.
Yeah, we miss him.
Yeah.
It's really
we need more people like Kevin in the world.
Definitely. Yes, we do.
Yep.
Definitely. Thanks, Kevin, for being my first guest on the show. Kevin and Jennifer were our first guests. I'll never forget that. They gave us a chance, and we ran with it, and it was awesome. So, thank you, Kevin. I'll see you again. We'll have these other conversations.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for allowing me to express myself creatively as your graphic art director for your show and being a good friend. We're going to miss you.
Yeah. My love goes out to Kevin and Jennifer, and anything I can do to help her get through this hard time, you know, I'm there for her, and Kevin was a good friend, and glad I had at least 5 years of good friendship with him. And if there's anything I can do to help carry on his legacy, I'm there. So,
ditto. Yeah.
Yep. You're here.
Yep.
I concur.
Agreed.
I agree too. And with that, we actually are out of time. And I had a hard time starting this show. It was very emotional for me. And it appears I'm having a hard time stopping it too. Jennifer, I love you. You know that. And that's not going to ever change. And I wish that I had had more time working together again, so that we could have even more discussions. And I just can't even fathom the depth of feelings that you're having, but just, I know that he is there with you. I know that just like you do. And just, Joni, I love you too. Thank you for taking me in as one of yours. And Sue, I'm glad you're here. And I hate that Denise is already gone, but, my friend Kimmy is in chat, and she got a chance to go up and meet Kevin and Jennifer recently. And she is a field investigator on her own a lot of times, which I chastise her for. But, you got to do what matters to you. All of y'all, thank you so much for being here. All of the listeners, thank you so much for joining us. This is a man who absolutely touched lives and was changing the world, and now will continue to do so in his own way. So I have no doubt that he is all over these hearings. So that's me. So anyway, I think that, if you don't like the world you're living in, you can change it. Manifest that. Be the change you want to see. And be the friend that you'd like to have. If we do these things, we can make the world change too. There's so much animosity and there's so much anger, and it's coming from every direction, it seems like. It's only being highlighted. That's not what real world living is. Step away from the TV. Go hunt a monster. Go hunt an alien. Don't get hunted. And that's it for this episode of Paraversal Universe. I want to thank everyone who joined me. Larry DeMisa, Scott Martis, Steve Carrington, Howie Odell, and Max Hawthorne. I know there were others who wanted to be here who had reasons that they couldn't. And thank y'all for your support for wanting to do that. When Jennifer feels up to it, she will be here. And I'm looking forward to that because I know all the people that volunteered to be her co-host to help her get through it. So thanks again. Everyone, have a great week. I will be back on Sunday night for Fate Mag Radio with Chris O'Brien. That's going to be fun. And then we will have Paranormal Pride on Monday. I will be back with Mary George on the 29th for Paranormal Experienced. And we'll just keep rolling. And Jennifer will be here when Jennifer can. So thank you so much. Y'all enjoy your night and your weekend.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.